You're taught that there are old men in alleys. You're not told that a friend, a socialite, a woman.
I met Maxwell and Epstein when I was just 16 years old through my sister, Maria Farmer. We were both abused, and I'm going to be testifying in her trial.
Without Ghislaine's help, Jeffrey Epstein could never have abused more than 500 victims.
Ghislaine Maxwell is serving 20 years for helping Jeffrey Epstein in his crimes. She has exhausted her appeals, and she is not getting out. But before she was sentenced, before the world turned against her, Maxwell was still connected. She was still moving through circles that should have known better. Now, newly released victim statements and court documents have raised questions about who else was in Maxwell's orbit, and one name keeps appearing in the speculation: Ellen DeGeneres, the queen of daytime kindness, a woman whose name appears in Epstein-related documents, a woman who, according to unverified claims circulating online, Maxwell allegedly begged for help. So today, we examine Ghislaine Maxwell's conviction. The victim's statements and suspicious passing away are allegedly connected to her, and the unanswered questions everybody has been asking. What did Ellen DeGeneres know about Ghislaine Maxwell, and why won't anyone in Hollywood talk about it?
She had this invisible butterfly net, and she would go out in the social scene in London and New York, and she would whisk her net and capture the beautiful people, the rich, the famous, the powerful people. It coated her, with a veneer of respectability.
Ghislaine Maxwell was born into privilege. Her father, Robert Maxwell, was a media tycoon, one of the most powerful figures in British public life during the 1970s and 1980s. He owned a publishing empire that included the Mirror newspapers, and more importantly, he moved among prime ministers, royalty, and global elites. Now, from a very young age, Ghislaine had access to these connections that most people could only dream of. She was raised in a world where access was the currency, and her father held the keys. She attended Oxford University. Now, according to her university friends, Ghislaine was the queen bee of the campus. She mingled with the wealthy and the powerful. Those who knew her described her as a beautiful, privileged young girl, but also someone trying to fit the mold of the life she had envisioned as a child. Her father helped set her up with a job in football club management, one of the teams he owned. By age 22, she was among the club's executives, and she also worked for the Mirror Group newspapers, helping to promote sweepstakes. She was learning the business of power. Now, the Maxwells were well connected within British high society, including members of the royal family. Prince Andrew met Ghislaine at Oxford, and he maintained a friendship with her that would later become a subject of intense scrutiny. By this time, Ghislaine was becoming a socialite, known for her glamorous presence at parties and events around the world. Social photographer Davis Jones recalled photographing her and being struck by her glamour and presence. She was not just attending, she was being seen. One of her father's few prized possessions was his yacht, the Lady Ghislaine, named after his youngest daughter. It was a symbol of his wealth, his power, his love for her, and it would later become the stepping stone into the infamous world of Jeffrey Epstein, the site of events that would lead to a worldwide scandal.
Can you list for me all the girls that you have met and brought to Jeffrey Epstein's house that were under the age of 18?
Check the form and foundation.
I could only recall my family members that were there, and I could not make a list of anyone else because that never happened. But I can take off.
I'm talking about during the time that you were working for Jeffrey Epstein.
Right.
Can you list all the girls that you found for Jeffrey Epstein that were under the age of 18 to come work for him in any capacity?
Check the form and foundation.
So I didn't find girls, I didn't look for them.
Ghislaine Maxwell's connections grew deeper as she grew older, and after she met Jeffrey Epstein, those connections extended across the Atlantic into the United States. She became his partner in access, in influence, and in crime. Recently released victim statements have shed new light on Maxwell's methods. One victim recounted her first visit to an older man's house in Palm Beach. Maxwell arranged the visit, and the victim was asked if she needed extra money. She was offered $200 to provide massages. This was a common tactic. Maxwell would recruit young girls, build their trust, and then introduce them to Epstein. The massages were a cover, and the money was a trap. Now, these victims were often too young, too scared, or too isolated to escape.
Search through pictures of almost any society event of the 90s and 2000s, and you'll probably see her, Ghislaine Maxwell. Sometimes she's dead center in frame, living it up, but occasionally you catch her on the dark periphery of a photo. And those are the perplexing portraits that emerge of Ghislaine Maxwell. On one hand, the graceful socialite, and on the other, according to her accusers, a woman who lurked at the edge of high society, scouting and procuring young women to give to Jeffrey Epstein. But maybe the most perplexing thing, despite the intense scrutiny of Epstein's crimes and her possible role in them, Ghislaine Maxwell has largely disappeared, and many of her alleged victims are still without justice.
On July 2nd, 2020, Ghislaine Maxwell was arrested by the FBI in New Hampshire. She had been living in hiding, staying in a sprawling property, maintaining a low profile since Epstein's arrest. The world watched as she was led away in handcuffs. She was charged with recruiting individuals for Epstein and participating in serious misconduct. Her trial was one of the most closely watched in recent history. She was convicted, and she is now serving 20 years in federal prison. Virginia Giuffre was the first to publicly connect Maxwell to Epstein. She alleged that Maxwell recruited her at age 16 and forced her into non-consensual encounters with powerful men, including Prince Andrew. She testified about multiple encounters, some of which allegedly took place on Epstein's private island. Prince Andrew has denied wrongdoing. He has never been charged with a crime, but in 2022, he settled Giuffre's civil lawsuit, a settlement that was widely seen as an admission of liability, even as he continued to maintain his innocence. Giuffre has spoken publicly about the fear she has lived with for years. She has described being stalked and threatened. She has said that powerful people have tried to intimidate her into silence, but she has continued to speak. And this pattern of intimidation suggests a network, not just Epstein and Maxwell, but people who had a vested interest in keeping the victims silent, people who had the resources to hire private investigators, people who could make threats without ever saying a word.
Great way of normalizing the that was going on. They kind of made it feel like we were in this really deranged family.
But as with everything in this story, even that was a facade. The alleged truth is uglier. If someone spurned his advances, or worse, dared to leave the Epstein slave ring, Ghislaine allegedly morphed into an enforcer. That included physical threats, according to alleged victim Maria Farmer.
She told me I needed to watch my back, that I know you like to go running on the West Side Highway, and that's not going to be a safe place for you anymore because there are a lot of ways to die on the West Side Highway.
When Ghislaine Maxwell was arrested, the world expected her to talk, that she would name names and expose the network that had protected her and Epstein for decades. She did not talk. She refused to name co-conspirators. She claimed Epstein was unalived and that those responsible were still free. Her silence has been one of the most frustrating aspects of the entire case. Online, speculation has filled the void left by her silence. Some have claimed that Maxwell made secret deals with powerful figures, celebrities, politicians, and business leaders to ensure they would not be named. These claims are unproven, and no evidence has surfaced to support them. However, one name that has surfaced repeatedly in this speculation is Ellen DeGeneres. Critics point to the timing of her show's end and her move to the UK, which happened around the time of Maxwell's legal proceedings. Ellen sold her Montecito mansion and purchased an estate in the English countryside. Her representatives said she wanted a quieter life, a change of pace after nearly 2 decades of daily television. There is no evidence that Ellen's move was connected to Maxwell or the Epstein files. But her name appears in the documents, but in news clippings and forwarded emails, not in criminal complaints. She has not been accused of any crime. Online, some have claimed that leaked deposition footage shows inconsistencies in Maxwell's stories about her relationship with Ellen. Others have pointed to supposed similarities between Ellen's show set and Epstein's island design choices, personal belongings, and aesthetic details.
Did you see the Ellen DeGeneres set on her show was the same set as the Epstein Island?
Oh boy, you gotta relax. What we doing?
Bro, check it. Bro. Look at it. Bro, the set.
What was going on?
Bro, it's crazy, bro.
So is Moana taking place on Epstein Island?
Bro, I don't know. Bro,
was Sebastian and Ariel on Epstein Island?
When you get a moment, Go online and look at her set.
Now, some claim Maxwell had at one point asked Ellen for help to get out of Epstein's world, but no proof has been provided to support this claim. Maxwell's silence has created a vacuum, and in that vacuum, speculation has flourished. Some of it may be rooted in fact, most of it is not. The challenge for anyone following this case is separating what is documented from what is imagined. Now, Ghislaine Maxwell is serving 20 years in federal prison. She is, by any measure, one of the most notorious criminals of her generation. But the prison where she is held is not what most people imagine. Federal Prison Camp Bryan in Texas is a minimum security facility. Some outlets have called it a country club. Others have reported on its recreational amenities, an athletic field, a library, vocational training programs, access to service dogs. The perception is clear. Maxwell is not suffering. She is not in a harsh, unforgiving environment. She is in a place where the conditions are comfortable, the rules are lax, and the perks are plentiful. Then there is the detail that has captured the attention of those who have followed this case closely. Female inmates at Bryan are allotted 2 rolls of toilet paper per week. Some order extra from the commissary, $2.25 a roll to avoid running out. Not Ghislaine Maxwell. She is given as much toilet paper as she needs. All she has to do is ask. A small thing perhaps, but a telling one. Rules that apply to other inmates do not appear to apply to her. Sources familiar with Maxwell's life in prison have confirmed this to multiple news outlets. The benefit is real and the privilege is well documented. And it raises an uncomfortable question. Why is Jeffrey Epstein's most notorious accomplice being treated differently? Maxwell's lawyers have not commented on her conditions. The Bureau of Prisons has not explained why she receives special treatment, but the perception is clear. The woman who helped Epstein prey on the vulnerable is being protected, even behind bars. Now people are wondering, why is Ghislaine Maxwell getting special privileges and who is making sure she doesn't suffer? So wait, she commits a crime, then goes to jail to be protected for the crime she committed? It sounds that way to me, since she is pretty much a permanent tenant at a hotel. She has more rights in prison than her own victims surviving outside prison. Why do I sense she may be safer in prison than outside of it?
At one point, she was getting her meals and mail delivered to her cell. She's also been allowed to use the chaplain's office inside the chapel for guests visiting outside of visitation hours. And Maxwell's arrival at this prison has really had a chilling effect on the other inmates there. We're told that the warden at the prison had a town hall where she basically told all the inmates, do not talk about Maxwell. And one inmate who did talk to a reporter was reprimanded and sent out of Bryan to a higher security prison. And we are told that this kind of thing has happened to several other inmates. The Bureau of Prisons tells CNN that this is not special treatment, but necessary treatment, given how high profile Maxwell is and the threats that have been made to Maxwell's life.
The Epstein scandal continues to unravel, revealing a complex web of coercion and cover-ups involving powerful individuals in entertainment and politics. Ghislaine Maxwell's silence and special treatment in prison suggest ongoing protection for those implicated. The deaths of victims and associates under suspicious circumstances add to the gravity of the situation. With the Truth Commission and further file releases, more revelations are expected. The public remains eager for transparency and justice for the survivors. The story is far from over, and as new evidence emerges, it will be crucial to stay informed and demand accountability from those involved. What do you think? Are these connections mere coincidences, or is there a much larger conspiracy being concealed?